Well, I guess I'm going to go ahead and get started. What I am going to talk about today is how to evaluate a property. And I'm going to go through the steps and tricks that I've done for the last 10 years, very basic, and I'm going to talk about a property that we just bought and put on the market today. So some of you that are on my list have seen it, advertised out about 10:30 this morning. But what I'm going to do is go step by step on how my brain for the last 10 years has operated to evaluate every single house that H&R Acquisitions has bought. Just to start out with, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Jason Riney. I am co-founder and partner of 2020 REI Group, H&R Acquisitions, Investable Realty, Elevate Private Capital, and DFWinvestors.com. And to give a little bit of background about myself, I started my real estate career back in 1998. I started as a home builder where I was instrumental in the development of houses from the dirt all the way to completion. Roughly in 2006, I transferred all this knowledge into the investment community where we've bought and sold over 1,100 homes. Throughout the years, I've gained a measurable experience as an investor, surviving all the different ups and downs of the cyclical market. We do anything from fix and flips, turnkey rentals, and the buying and selling of numerous wholesale properties. Last year alone, I was instrumental in buying over 100 properties for H&R Acquisitions. And as any of you in the room that know me know that I have a desired passion to share my knowledge with anybody who wants to buy, fix and flips, rentals, anything of that nature. Step one. So step one, anytime I get a lead that comes into the company, whether it's from a wholesaler, it's a phone call, somebody meets me in a meeting like this and says, hey, I've got a house for you to look at. The very first thing I do is go to get property tax information. For us here at H&R Acquisitions and with our company, since we do not have MLS access, we use Investable Realty. One of the companies that we have, and we use Zul here in the front row, is one that gets a lot of this information for me. Zul will get me the realist report. If I don't have Zul available, then I can always go to DCAD. You can go to the Denton County Central Appraisal District. You can go to the Collin County Central Appraisal District, or you can even go to the Tarrant County Central Appraisal District. And just to kind of go through this house, like I said earlier, this is a house we just picked up. It's 12043 High Meadow Drive, right there in Dallas, Texas. And anytime, before I ever go to an appointment or even to look at the house, the very first thing I want to know is how much square footage does this house have to offer? Second thing I run for is the subdivision. I want to know what subdivision this house is in. And then this is another little great tool right here. It's got the total building square footage, and then it has the air conditioned square footage, which normally when I'm hunting this, I'm deciding whether my house has a garage conversion, if I've got an add-on in the back. And as we get into the comps, you'll see that anytime you have an anomaly, a house that's garage converted, add-ons, you can't count the square footage the same in that house. It's not dollar for dollar. Principle is, if you have an add-on, it's usually about 20 to 30% of what all other square footage would be on a typical house in a neighborhood. And the last thing I shoot for is age of the house. I always want to make sure I'm comparing apples to apples, a 1962 build to a 1962 build. And then I go to the bed and bath. And always take note, because if you look at this house right here, and we will see later when we do the walkthrough in the video, this house was taxed as a 2-2. First thing I noticed when I walked in the house, this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. So I never go solely off the tax rolls. 1,500 square feet is a 2-2, that's some pretty large bedrooms. So step 2 of evaluating a property, I always try to get my homework done. I want to know the house I look at, what do I need to do to my house to get the top of the market value? So then I go into go down and start pulling my comps. So when Zul will go pull comps for me, the first thing I ask him to do is naturally go into the subdivision and pull it by subdivision alone. because I want all of my comps to come out of the exact subdivision. That's a perfect world. There's sometimes that I have to pull a little bit of neighborhood over, but for the most part, I'm searching for the exact subdivision of the house that I'm in. Next thing I do is I go down, I told Zul on this house, let's omit all pools. You'll later see that I had to include one because that was one of the better comps. And the next thing I go through is I try to keep my houses within 120 square feet plus or minus. The reason I keep that there is because a typical bedroom in a house is about 120 square feet. So if I start looking above that, I may be adding bedrooms, getting a larger home. I might have an additional study that my house doesn't have. So I try to stay with 120 plus or minus. Like I said, I want like kind comps. I don't want to compare a pooled house to a non-pooled house. Stay close to the same build. I want plus or minus 5 years. I mean, you don't ever want to compare a house built in the 60s to a house that was built in the 2000s. And so then I hit my search criteria. Zul brought me back this. As you can see, the next thing I try to do is I try to reduce it within all major roads. With this particular neighborhood, I pulled it within Forest, Marsh, and Webb's Chapel. And then I had him print me out a CMA. And I don't know if y'all can see on here from the back, this is the full subdivision, and a lot of the little comps in here I had to reduce off because they're actually the solds of the day the house was bought, and some of these pendings up here are actually the fixed up product ready to sell. So I reduced it down, and I really wish I would have printed better, and then I print myself a map. In 10 years, I've never wavered from the fact that I will always print my map and drive my neighborhood. If you aren't driving these neighborhoods, you're going to miss a whole lot. And in 10 years, I've driven this neighborhood probably 6 or 7 times, and I start realizing this side of the neighborhood is improving on a drastically higher basis than this side is. And 10 years ago, they were exactly the same. But if you look at this map, I put a green little dot where our subject house is, and my best comp is number 4. And number 4 backs up to the major road, so it gets rid of any kind of an obsolescence. And then my other comp I pulled was number 5 over here on Cromwell. And before I even leave to go to the field or the subdivision to take a look at this house, I go through all pictures of the house to see what I need to do. So here's number 4, and as you can see, this is mark for mark, and y'all will see when we walk through do the walkthrough of the home. This house is exactly like the subject, to a T. And if you look right here, the kitchen's been opened up. They've got granite countertops, nice hardwood floors. Both bathrooms have been completely updated. I mean, it's a beautiful looking house. And then here's let me back up real quick. And right down here, this house sold for $178,000. So as I go through and start to establish the value of this home, and sold in April of this year. So it's not even 30 days old. So this to me is probably one of my best comps for this house. My expectation once we buy this house, fix it up and stick it on the market, is that we should get about $178,000, if not $180,000 for this home. Next house, just to kind of secure my thought process, is this house over on Cromwell. It too sold in April, sold for about $200,000. You can tell it's got tile running out throughout the inside. Finish out's about the same, and the only thing I didn't put on here was this house does have a pool. So I think that's probably the equation for about the extra $10,000 on this house. And then the third step is now I'm ready to go look at my house. Ready to go see the pitfalls and the beauty of the house. So we're going to take about 5 minutes. I'm going to do a video walkthrough. Maybe. Or maybe not. Apparently the video didn't carry through. Well, it was a great video, I promise you. So when I go to the house, I'm looking for all the things that I'm going to need. Prime example in this house, ooh, Tim, can you kill the lights a little bit?
Yeah.
It's washing out the screen. Things I'm looking at when I get to the house, I'm looking for the big majors. I'm looking at the roof, I'm looking at the foundation, I'm looking at the electrical panel box, all the big ticketed items. And I kind of walk into this house with a mindset that I'm probably going to spend anywhere from about $12 to $15 a square foot.
Can we try to fix the video?
It didn't carry over from my computer. Yeah, we changed it to here and it didn't work. And the reason I do that is when I get to the house, I would rather talk to the people. I don't want to spend...
Is it on DFW Investors?
It's on YouTube. Yeah.
Is it live?
Mm-hmm. See if we can get the video up. But, what we're looking for... Lost my train of thought. But we're going...
What the video's about? Because I want to get it done.
You were at the electrical box. 15.
Electrical box. I'm walking this house. Like I said, when I get to the house, I want to talk to the people. I don't want to sit there and be an inspector because, I need to meet the people. So I get to the house. I've pretty much got a preconceived idea. I've seen the pictures that we all saw of the house that is very similar to ours. We've seen the pictures of the house over on Cromwell. We kind of know what we're going to have to spend in this house, and anybody that's done this long enough knows how much floors cost, paint cost. So we're really there with we start with the budget, and we're either going to add or subtract from it as to what we find when we get to the house. And here is our video of that home.
That's why it keeps me as a partner. I can put it down.
You got a great IT guy up there.
So we get to this house, we walk in the front door after it scrolls. It's the same living room that we saw in that other house on High Meadow. It's got the fireplace. Carpet's not in bad shape, but as we saw in the pictures, it definitely needs hardwood floors. Here's the kitchen. Kitchen needs granite, as we saw. Kitchen needs new appliances. And that whole wall right there probably needs to be removed in order to get that inviting effect from the family room to the kitchen. Here I'd go in, definitely inspect the panel box. Not bad. These cabinets could probably be painted or replaced. I think the Cromwell house had painted cabinets. Definite paint job, definitely new floors. Right about here, I'm hunting for cracks. And this area is historically, just from experience, always has a little bit of foundation problem. Going down the hall, we're heading into the first bathroom. First bathroom's a definite gut, needs new floors, new shower. I don't know if y'all remember the picture, it had marble in there. New vanity. Bedroom number 2 is not bad. It needs a new light fixture, new doorknobs.
Comfortable bed.
Do what?
Comfortable bed.
Yes.
Little firm.
HVAC is in great condition. Hot water heater's fairly new. Now when I walk this house, like I said earlier, I'm walking it for a level. I'm trying to find out if I'm up and down. When I got into this room, I was feeling a little bit of the foundation. See the crack right there underneath the window? And the seller did tell us that they'd had previous foundation work done. So whether we get the warranty or not, I'm not, we'll see when it finishes, but we're not sure yet. And then going in the master, here's where you're going to see a lot more of the cracking. This house particularly backs straight up to 635, and I think a lot of the foundations were subject to the digging that they did in order to get the sub-levels of 635. They said they had it fixed about 5 years ago and it's already back. But here's the master. I'd definitely probably rip this vanity out, open up the room a little bit, and totally redo the bathrooms. Nothing wrong with the fiberglass, but it's definitely not going to sell for $180,000. There's one of the big cracks in the master. These are the kinds of things that we're just hunting for when we do the walk. So now, like I said earlier, I was about $14 a square foot in my mind. I definitely need to paint, definitely need to do the floors, I need to do the bathrooms. I'm right on par. Oh, we don't want to watch that. I'll play. There we go. So probably some of the big things besides the foundation is going to be the panel boxes. That right there is an infamous Federal Pacific box. They do not work. They have to be replaced. The day they were installed, they were out of code. So most people I visit with says, hey, I have no problem with the panel box. They never break. Well, that's the problem. They never break. So you're drawing a heavy load on a wire and this thing never pops. The next thing you know, the house catches on fire. Wires get too hot. They're designed to only carry so much load. And I don't know about y'all, but like I said earlier, I've built houses. I've done all this work. At my house, I still go through the rule of thumb that all Americans go through. You just keep plugging it until the breaker switches. That's kind of the same way with this one, except it doesn't switch. So that right there is a definitely need to replace. This is to kind of show you a different view of it. You're looking for stab lock, you're looking for Federal Pacific. If you see one of those, you put yourself about $2,000 in the budget, you're going to have to get rid of this thing. Because although it may work, you get to the finish line, you're selling this house, and the inspector's going to come back and say, it's all great, love to loan on it, put a new panel box in there. And by this time, it may not be in your budget. This one right here, I found in an old house in Dallas. It's not Federal Pacific, but these are Zenco breakers. That was the company that Federal Pacific bought. So there's just kind of the same family here. And this one's kind of deceptive. It looks like an old panel box. You think it's a Federal Pacific, you're going to have to replace it. Nope. It's actually a GE. It's just a really old GE, and it will be just fine. And then you see one of these and you're happy because that's a brand new replaced panel box. Keep that sucker. It's going to save you a bunch of money. Next thing we're hunting for a big ticket item is definitely the HVAC. So don't remember which house this was in, but it looks like a great Ream unit. It's the Quiet 80. Everything's good. You run home and buy the house, and then you find out from your HVAC guy that that's a heater only. Oop. I don't know if y'all see this, it's just the plenum, but there is no coil right there, and you think you have a great HVAC system. Nope, you have a heater, and you're going to have to add the HVAC system into this house. So in order to avoid that problem, just to show you, the things you're looking for is this copper line right here that enters into the unit, and you're looking for a condensation drain. If you've ever been out in a car in the summertime and you watch your car leak all over the concrete, it's condensation, and that's the same thing your house air conditioner does. So you're looking for that line in order to know that you've got an air conditioner. Just to show y'all here's the same thing. There's that copper line. There's the condensate. This is the actual inside part of your air conditioner is going to make it cool. So on this house, just to kind of run through my repair budget, now that I've went out there and I'm going to longhand it, I've definitely got foundation problems. Put about $3,500 in that budget for a foundation. I've got to repaint this one, so about $3,000. I've got to put all brand new floors in the house, hardwood floors, tile, carpet in the bedrooms, about $5,500. Kitchen updates, about $5,000 to put granite, new appliances, backsplash. Bathrooms, I have 2 bathrooms to update, about $4,000. Gonna have to put new fans, light fixtures in this house. Doorknobs. You have to put all new faucets in it. Windows. And then I always put a miscellaneous budget. Every house has that oops factor. Whether it's the very final day that the inspector comes out and he says, oops, you've got to replace that. So I always put $1,000 in, landscape to make it beautiful, gives me a total budget of about $30,500. So the house financials of the one that we put out today to sell was an after repaired value of $178, repair cost of about $30,500, brings it to a purchase price of $1,075, and you should make a pretty good amount of money. So now I'm going to open it up. Anybody got any questions? What the cost is? It'd be a double pane vinyl window. Is there a question back there? And then we'll come back here.
Jason, I came in a little late, so I apologize if you already covered this, but on your rehab repair budget, one of those last slides you were going through, do you have anything, I believe you said just contingency maybe, do you have a percentage that you typically would apply as a contingency? That's number one. Number two, what about things like permits, maybe getting a dumpster for demo, that kind of thing? I didn't see that up there, but I don't know if that's negligible or not.
I try to buy my houses completely clean, meaning that they're all cleaned out. In this example up here, I did put $1,000 towards permits, cleanouts, anything of that nature. So I've got a miscellaneous budget right in here of about $1,000. And I try to get my other compartments pretty tight so that that $1,000 is always sitting there. I feel like a great day is to come home with $1,000 extra in your rehab budget than to be $2,000 over.
Jason, my question is, when you're doing all of this repair work and you were going to replace the kitchen, the bathroom, and all of that, do you actually go buy the fixtures and materials yourself, or do you have your contractor do all of that?
For us, we let our contractor do it.
Okay.
Now, our contractor is kind of a unique situation. We know him very well, and he has our credit card, so the only thing I don't have to do is go drive and pick it up. But I don't think my Jeep will carry it, so his truck's better suited for it.
On the electrical, for older homes, do you look to, and you see the 2-prong receptacles, do you look to upgrade the whole system?
I can't hear anything. What was the question?
When on older homes that have the 2-prong receptacles, do you look to upgrade the whole system, the whole electrical?
Great question. Everybody hear it? If you've got an older home with a 2-prong system, do you upgrade it? Are you keeping it as a rental, or are you selling it? The last thing you ever want to do is misrepresent those outlets. So if you're going to leave it as a 2-prong and see if it gets grandfathered in, leave it as 2-prong. If you put a 3-pronged outlet into a 2-pronged house, you set yourself up for liability. For us, we would probably rewire that house and give it a 3-pronged system. I was talking with an inspector once who did rentals, and he kept a lot of rentals. And he said, if you try to represent, it's me. But he was saying that if he's going to, like, he was given an example of a pier and beamed house. So he would drop a single 3-prong in every room. He made sure that it was the only 3-prong, and he would just run a line underneath the house. So he would drop one down. But he said the last thing he ever wanted to do was represent a 3-prong system, have one of his tenants plug in a $1,000 TV and have lightning strike the house. and all of a sudden he's buying new TVs.
How do you verify that it's grandfathered in?
How do I verify if it's a rental?
That it can be grandfathered in, leaving it in 2 months?
I think if it was built that way, it has to be grandfathered in.
If it's built like that, then it's all.
Yeah. Now, in regards to lending, that could be a whole nother bear. They may, you may fall out of a bunch of loans. Part of the reason why we would go ahead and do it. The last thing, and anything that I ever do in a rehab of a home, I always think of my market as 100%. 100 people come see a house. I don't want a two-pronged outlet to knock 50% of my buyers off the market. Because I want 100 people to come in, because just the nature of the beast, 50% of them are just going to walk in and say, it wasn't for me, I'm leaving. I don't want the house to dismiss 50% of my buyers and then have an issue dismiss the other 50%. So I mean, I want as many people fighting over this house as I can, I don't want anything to be outstanding, is what I'm trying to say. Another question here?
Jason, just a quick question on just what is a good rule of thumb for accounting for all the closing costs, and what certain percentage do you apply in your personal experience, like for the closing costs, realtor commissions, and certain things of that nature?
I don't have a rule of thumb. I mean, I've actually got a spreadsheet in my office that I plug it all into. I give myself about 6 months on a flip because that's all my hard money lender gives me. I got dire straits if I'm holding it after 6 months. Which, in this market, it's a whole lot easier. I mean, when we were, 4 years ago, it wasn't uncommon to have a house for more than, to list it for 3 months. But like I said, I've got a spreadsheet, and if you get with me later, I can share it with you. But I just have a spreadsheet that we put it into, and it kind of spits it out to me as to what I need to do.
Hi, going back to your question about the two-prong, how extensive, cost-wise, going from two-prong to 3, I mean, do you have like a per?
I'm going to come back here because I'm hard of hearing.
So going back to the question about the two-prong upgrade to a 3-prong, it's how extensive cost-wise would that be? Do you have just a ballpark of like per outlet, or what would that look like in your opinion?
On average, it's running us anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 to rewire.
You talked about replacing Federal Pacific panels. Is there any particular reason why? Were they just shoddy, or?
Why they're shoddy?
Oh, no, why were you automatically replace them?
Because most lenders won't allow them in the house, and most insurance companies won't insure a house with one because there's such a high risk of fire that insurance companies will deny them, and lenders don't even want to put, they don't want to place a loan on it due to the risk of it catching fire.
How long were they in business?
Federal Pacific, crazy thing is almost any Fox and Jacobs from the 70s was all done with Federal Pacific. And they actually, when Federal Pacific went out of business, they bought all the inventory. So they did it for a long time. Do we have any more questions?
What about, you mentioned the roof, or how do you look at the roof and make an assessment whether you need to do any work on it?
It's asking about the roof. Typically on a roof, I go at the customer's word. I'm not going to climb on the roof. I'm not going to do an extensive, research. I will say that, as my wife can attest, I'm very in tune with the weather. Anytime there's a hailstorm, I keep very good notes against which areas are being damaged. And I'll ask the customer, how long has it been since the last roof? They normally tell you the truth, especially when they feel like they're going to have to fill out a seller's disclosure. And at that point in time is when I really find out. And it's not uncommon for me to get to the seller's disclosure and look at them and go, hey, you said it was 2 years old, now it's 10. In the past 10 years, it's been hell in this neighborhood. We'll need a couple more $1,000. And also, especially right now, after the storm season we just had, as I'm driving those comps, which I said earlier, I always get there 30 minutes early. I get there 30 minutes early to see how many roofing signs I have in the neighborhood. If 20% of the neighborhood's got roofing signs in front of it, there's a good chance this house is going to need a roof. It doesn't matter if they put it on last year. If 20% of the neighborhood has roofing signs in the front yard, this area just got hit. And I'll be honest with you, in this market today, you sit down with the customer and say, would you have a problem filing on your insurance? I'll offer you a little more money. They'll all get you a brand new roof. Doesn't cost them anything, and they hear I'm getting more money. Okay. and it's going to cost the insurance company, I love that day. And they'll do it for you. I do. If it doesn't work, especially in Texas summer, you know it. If you're both sitting there sweating, you look at that customer and go, hey, does the air conditioner work? I've had a few that said I just don't like the bill, and then I will go flip it on just to make sure that the outside unit comes on. The funny part is in Texas, if it's not working, there's usually a window unit somewhere. So, although I may not be asking you a million questions, my eyes are asking the house 100 questions. So I'm looking and paying attention, and I'm not going to get into confrontation with my seller, but I'm definitely paying attention to how this house looks. Got one here, and I'm going to, right here.
Do you ever check the insulation?
Do what?
Do you ever check the insulation?
I do. I'll put my head up in the attic to make sure it still has insulation. Unless I'm going to take all the sheetrock off, I'm not really caring about the walls. Did buy a house that was in Junius Heights, and that house definitely had no insulation. We had to insulate the whole thing. So it's kind of the age of the house. I mean, you get a house built in the 50s, you can pretty much guarantee there's about 50% of the insulation in the walls. All the rest of it, gravity has pulled it down. I mean, the house isn't efficient. So, I mean, and that's where you have to decide, am I going to give them back insulation, or am I going to leave it the way that it is? And if I'm not pulling sheetrock off, it's probably going to stay the way that it is. But I will blow it in the attic.
Hey, I was wondering what year house that was and what the square footage.
That house right there was built in 1962, and it was 1,504 square feet. So right at 1,500.
Aluminum wire, you do that desk.
Aluminum wire? I'd like to replace it. I would definitely like to replace it. It's a matter of if it's in my budget or not. If it's not, I'll get my electrician to come in with the special nuts and definitely pigtail it in a proper way. Right now I think they're cutting them back, pigtailing them, and putting copper against the receptacle, but they're using a specially insulated nut that won't allow them to arc or spark. They have a special gel inside of them that when they twist them, they actually secure that connection.
There's receptacles that are set up for it.
I didn't know that. I walk in there, see aluminum, leave, and come back, and I'm all covered, so.
Is it a 2 or 3 prong?
This house was 2-prong.
Did you change it?
Would I?
Did you change it?
We haven't done anything in this house yet. We haven't actually closed on it yet. We're just in contract. I think we have about another 2.5 weeks before we buy it.
Are your plans to change it?
If I don't sell it first, I may sell it. I may never touch it. Depends on if I get the right price.
What is that tax?
More!
1075. When the email went out today, it was priced at 1075. The price per square foot on that house? I'll be honest with you, I don't go as much price per square foot. I find that neighborhoods have a ceiling and a floor, and the house can sell within that neighborhood. I know a lot of people like to talk about price per square foot. You know, at some point, price per square foot and square footage will put you out of the market. And I always say, there's a point that an individual will look at the price and say, I'm buying in another neighborhood. So honestly, I don't focus on price per square foot.
What about on your repairs? I think you said you walk in looking at 12 to 15, but
My typical, like, if I don't have to do any major structurals like a roof, an air conditioner, a panel box, windows, just my cosmetic, which is paint, floors, new vanities, bathrooms, kitchen, I'm running between $12 to $15 a square foot is what I'm finding. So, like I said, when I get to this house, I pretty much know that I'm going to spend anywhere from $12 to $15 a foot. Unless I find out they just rehabbed that house last year, and then I walk into a complete surprise.
you said 30,000 was your repair?
On this particular house, I'm running at about $30,000 repair budget.
A little bit more in this case.
This house had foundation problems. It needs new windows, panel box, I think was in, this house had a good panel box. But those two factors alone, and I need to do a little bit of landscaping work against it to try to mask. I mean, honestly, I didn't hear any of the noise of 635 while I was there because they put a sound barrier up behind my fence of this house. Sometimes I would play the into factor of that too. How do I mask the sound? New windows should help with that. But like I said, when I went to this house, I always try to walk in with a preconceived idea. Probably about, in 10 years, probably 10 to 15 times I've been surprised at the condition of the home.
And with like windows, are you looking at the more energy efficient or economical?
It'll be a vinyl double pane window. Now, if I was to move this house from a $180,000 price point to maybe a $300,000 price point, I would definitely be looking at a higher end window. And again, back to the neighborhood, I'm driving my comps. If my houses have all replaced windows, I need to replace my windows. That's a guarantee.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. This house right here, if I keep this house, I'm definitely opening the walls up. I mean, I don't know if you saw, you didn't get to see the pictures earlier. The house about 5 doors down from this one sold for $178,000. They definitely removed the wall from the kitchen to the family room and opened it up with a serving countertop and all that. This house is exactly what I would do to this one as well. I would not leave it the way that it is.
You're dealing with this mostly as a flip.
Do what?
You're dealing with this mostly as a flip, not as a rental.
This particular house, I would focus on it as a flip. I don't think the rents in this neighborhood have caught up to what the retail value is. Which is crazy because I'm finding it all over Dallas right now. People were buying rentals like crazy about 2 years ago. Now the retail values have shot up so much that what they were buying as their rental properties are now flips. Do what?
Well, you got basically 38 versus 78, so you got a $40,000 cap.
I try to leave some meat on the bone. I want you to come back and see me again.
I was just wondering what that internal pier was. I didn't catch it.
We budget about $200 for exteriors and then another $35, so $235 for an interior pier is what our budget is.
Extra.
You'll probably find it for that price. I mean, there's some guys that'll say $175. There's some guys that'll be at $235. So I mean, I think $200 is a fair assessment.
Okay, address.
12043 High Meadow. Is it 12043? Yeah. 12043 High Meadow. We have a question over here.
Old cast iron sewer. Do you factor that in, that unknown, in case you have to replace it, or tree roots, or down there?
The day of evaluation, I'll walk it off for a complete repipe, and while I'm negotiating with the customer, give them 50% credit. So if I think that the house is going to take $5,000 to replace all the pipes in the house, I cut the bill in half, and either he's going to eat it or I'm going to eat it. One of us are. So yes, the question was, do I sell it within 6 months? Recently, everything we've touched, we've sold within the 6-month window. That's purchase, rehab, and sale.
Okay, so do you wait until you've completed all the rehabbing before you start marketing, or do you start marketing, advertising before the rehabbing is complete?
Question is, do I market it before I'm done? Never, ever do I market my houses before they're done.
Market it now.
What?
You're marketing it right now.
That's as a wholesale property. If I was going to do this as a retail flip to consumers, I would never stick it on the market with coming soon pictures. It's still dirty. I don't want any of that, because the moment a consumer walks to your house, they're forming an opinion about your house as they walk up to the house. The curb's beautiful, the front door's beautiful, the step's beautiful, landscaping's perfect. I don't put a house that, oh, by the way, I'll get to the landscaping next weekend, y'all come out and buy it. Because you only get one shot to a first impression. And like I said, as your realtor is at the box, popping the lockbox key, that consumer standing behind them with nothing else to do but to say, well, it's kind of dirty on the front porch. Oh, that tile looks horrible right here. I mean, they're forming an opinion as they're waiting to enter the home. So you need that to look beautiful.
What about staging?
Staging, we haven't staged.
You don't stage normally?
No, we did. We've done it in the past. But kind of in today's market, people are whatever.
At one point of the price of a house, would you consider staging a good option?
I would say as a rule of thumb in this market, if it's not gone in 30 days, you might want to stage it. Or if you have some kind of a weird anomaly, like there's something that you're trying to show a room off and say why. I mean, my particular house that I live in right now, I have to stage it because it's hard to see furniture fitting inside my room. I've done it, and I think if I was to leave it alone, a buyer would have a hard time seeing themselves living in my living room. But if they saw how I did it, they'd be like, oh, that works. So if you've got something weird, like a weird opening, a weird door, you might want to stage it just to show them how it works.
It was, right beside 635,
Yeah.
needed that double or triple.
I think some of the comps had new windows, but yes, on this particular home, you'd want the insulated windows to mask the noise. If there's any kind of a road noise back there, a fire truck, a wreck, I mean, 635 has a lot of wrecks, so I would definitely want double pane windows to try to mask that noise. The last thing you want to do is have somebody looking at the house to purchase it and the squealing tires hit down 635, or a fire truck comes by. Sale's over with, might as well cancel it.
What percentage of your homes are you adding square footage in a way of like an addition?
Currently, we don't add square footage to any of ours. We play with what we got. I just don't want to spend the time. So on this particular house, that's a complete cabinet replacement. And that house was the one that was 5 doors down and it sold for $178. This house on Cromwell looks like they just painted this cabinet. They're just a dark gray. They've got new hardware on it. So in this neighborhood, I can go either direction. I can paint them and so, as you're saying, if I go over in the windows, then maybe I just paint the kitchen cabinets. So the last thing I want to do is walk in the house and just start ripping everything out. Then I go over in my windows and go, well, I wish I'd have kept those cabinets. I mean, you kind of need your preemptive budgets to know these answers.
You put granite in the kitchen?
Definitely.
But not in the bathroom?
I would probably put a granite countertop in the bathrooms as well. Yeah. That's why I'm at 2,200 in that bathroom. I mean, normally I was running about 1,500, but on these bathrooms I'd jump it up to 2,200 because, like I said, this house has a location barrier that I want to overcome. This house, if you look, backs right up to 635. But so does my best comp. So I mean, to say that it won't sell or I need to take money off because of its location, that one sold, and it sold last month. So somebody's in the market to buy houses over there. None of the houses that we've done have we ever put a refrigerator into. I would probably buy the wrong one.
When you put in new appliances, do you go automatically stainless or do general white?
I typically go stainless. I think it brings an air of elegance. People tend to like stainless, except for the people that don't.
Cracks in the driveway, what would you do? Just leave them?
If they're hairline, I leave them. If they're a trip hazard, I'd have to address it.
Is that a whole report, pretty much?
And it's, I hate to say it, but it really depends on how my negotiation went on the front side. If they didn't leave, I mean, at some point I go in there and I'm going to do it all. I'm going to make this the best house in the world. But on the flip side of that coin, these people are still negotiating to sell their house to me. So if they're being real strong in the negotiations, the driveway may be the first thing I cut. Unless it's sitting on the market for long, and then I look at it and say, it might be $2,000 to replace the driveway, but another 2 months is going to cost me the same amount of money. So let's get a new driveway in this thing. It's one thing you also have to look at in here. As you're holding on to these houses, at what point do you pull the Band-Aid and you just fix it?
Because for concrete during the roadways, one thing for your miscellaneous 1,000, isn't it?
It's going to be more than my miscellaneous. But I try to buy houses with a buffer involved. I try to buy houses with a little bit of buffer. I don't go straight off the 30,000. I mean, I do have a little bit of room for an oops factor, more than my $1,000. Got a question back here?
Are you having any trouble with the AFCI requirement?
Circuit breakers,
GFIs.
arc fault. City of Dallas seems to have really gotten tight on that. The inspectors looking for AFCI breakers.
Tim, have we had to replace GFCIs per inspection report?
Replace or install?
Install.
Yes. Install it is.
Like a closing condition report.
What?
Like one of our closing condition reports.
Yeah.
We've had to do it?
We had to install. I mean, we didn't have to replace the existing.
Yes.
So you're doing